Hello, and thanks for joining us today. My name is Jo Fagbadegun. I'm the Director of Sales for Lorien. Lorien's a leading provider of talent acquisition solutions with a 40-year heritage. We work with customers large and small to deliver RPO, MSP, and total talent solutions. In this series of video shorts, we're talking to some of Lorien's key client partners about the challenges and opportunities to drive inclusion and diversity in 2021. As a mixed ethnicity female sales leader in what is typically a male-dominated environment, I'm personally passionate about creating an inclusive and open culture with my team, and I love partnering with customers who feel the same. Today, I'm in a conversation with Chris Bleakley, Director of Resourcing at Nationwide Building Society. Chris is a senior HR professional with knowledge and experience of resourcing, talent management, L&D, and employee engagement. Lorien and Nationwide partner together to deliver a multidiscipline RPO for technology, head office, and branch recruitment. One of the reasons we love working with Nationwide is because they're a building society, so they're owned by their 16 million members. They've got a real sense of purpose, and with over 17,000 staff across the UK, they're working together to build a stronger, kinder, and greener society. Chris, thank you for joining me today. I'd like to talk about remote working, aka working from home, and particularly how Nationwide has responded to changes in ways of working in light of the pandemic. So the first question is, I guess in your opinion, is working from home here to stay?
Hi, Jo. Well, I think the answer to that is that working from home is not actually the question. The question is probably, is working differently here to stay? So are we going to revert back to the ways we were working pre-pandemic? And I think the answer to that is, well, certainly for us, the answer to that is no. And the reason for that is what we want to focus on is enabling people to work wherever is best to do the job. And it's sort of a quite binary discussion often, is it, are we all going to stay at home or are we going to go back to an office? Well, actually, there's two or three things to consider there. One of those is, well, there are other locations, so you can work in different places. And secondly, I think the answer for most people is going to be some form of hybrid approach. What we've done from a Nationwide perspective is we've made sure we've taken other views into consideration. So we've worked with Ipsos Mori to look at what's happening in the external marketplace, and we've brought that together with interviews with our top 200 leaders across the organisation. And also with the people that work at Nationwide. So we surveyed about 9,000 people, had one of the biggest responses we've had to a survey because clearly it's of real interest to people. And clearly we've got some different types of folk who work for Nationwide, those in the branch network versus those who are in an office. So there's that to take into consideration as well. But where people work is all about whether they're able to deliver the right outcomes for our members, make the right decisions, and have the tools and equipment to be able to do their job. And I don't think that necessarily means they need to be in an office, and going back to just working in an office would seem to me like a retrograde step. And for us, it'll be some form of hybrid approach as a result of what people said through the survey and through our research, which is we want to continue to work in a way which is different, more flexible, gives us better work-life balance, and enables us to do a better job. And that's broadly speaking what the surveys told us.
Great. So the next steps then for Nationwide is kind of communicating out the results, the guidelines, new policies out to the workforce. So
I think the thing to point out here is that what we're not going to come up with is a whole range of new policies. That would probably be a mistake. What we're going to come out with is some key guidelines. And those are, broadly speaking, around being able to work anywhere or where is most appropriate for that particular piece of work. So if you imagine you had a report to write, well, you can do that at home quite easily. If you wanted to collaborate with a group of people and come up with some new ideas, you might want to go to a place to do that. It might not be an office, by the way, but you probably want to meet up somewhere. We're going to have some inclusive meeting principles. So think about where, if you have a meeting, where it is, and think about all being online or all being in a place as opposed to one or the other. We'll recruit where the talent is. So we can have location agnostic roles. You don't need to be based in a specific location to do a job for Nationwide. There are some exceptions to that, the branch network, for example. We'll continue to invest in office locations because they need to be fit for purpose. If they're places of collaboration, of celebration, of getting together, then you probably want to reshape what they look like. And finally, we'll consider well-being. There are some people who need to work in an office for various different reasons, and we'll make sure that we've got office space for those people. But we found through the survey, the vast majority of people want to work in a more flexible way, which means far less time in an office, but still some time. But there's no intention for us to go back, because I think it's going back.
Thanks, Chris. That's really useful. I think the point you made around kind of some meetings only being on Teams rather than in kind of a mix of people, maybe some on Teams, some in the office. Obviously, that's maybe more challenging to orchestrate unless you do kind of mandate something. So I suppose hearing about the policies, the policy will be guidelines, but then you'll have some kind of clear kind of ways of working for certain sessions, and bringing people together in the office face to face, as you say, doesn't necessarily always mean that that's an opportunity for people to collaborate any better than if they are actually all on Teams at home with an equal kind of footing.
And I think, Joe, the key here is not to over policy this. We're going to have guidelines as opposed to things that you must do. The more rules you introduce here, the more complex it becomes, because different people, different leaders, different teams will want to work in different ways. The thing about the inclusive meetings piece is more to do with think about making sure that what you're doing is working in a way that enables everyone to contribute. Now, the irony of it is we found that through COVID, contributions from people who are either less overt, who are from a background where they are less challenging. So culturally, people who come from backgrounds where they don't like to talk over people. Culturally, they come from backgrounds where men don't talk over women, which is another thing we've had. From a team's perspective, interestingly, the ability to be on the screen, be kind of slightly removed, have your notes in front of you, be able to prepare, feel less nervous, and to put your hand up and be heard is enabling more people to have a voice, not less. So the interesting thing is that those inclusivity guidelines around meetings are going to really help to push the inclusion agenda, as opposed to make it more difficult, I think.
I think that's fascinating, and I completely concur. Actually, I thought, how could you ever do a brainstorm over Teams? But actually, we do a lot more prep prior to the brainstorm, and then you're really ready, honed, ready to go, sharing your screen. You can have your kind of dynamic whiteboard. Yeah. And that my kind of personal nervousness at the start of lockdown 1.0 about how we could be creative, I suppose, when you're not kind of in person, is really it's not been fulfilled. So long may the remote working from home continue, and it sounds like you've got some great ideas at Nationwide to keep it, to foster inclusion as well as getting the best out of people and giving them the environment they want. So thank you for sharing that with us.